Okay, let's go ahead and move on to lines and angles. So again, just a lot of vocabulary and familiarizing yourself with the geometry, figures, and terms. I drew in the angles or the arrows. My computer didn't print them very well. I don't know if yours did, but yeah, I just wanted you to see these don't have arrows. This has two, this has two, this one has one. So that makes a difference on how we're going to name it. So this first one we already talked about. When you join two rays, remember you get an angle. So this is a single ray. Then name the figure using the given points. With rays, we always start with the end point, and then we put the symbol above it. So that's what it looks like. It's called ray AB. And then the symbol goes above, the end point's above the A, just like it is, and the arrows with the B, just like it is in the picture. When there's no arrows, we call it a line segment because it's only a piece of a line, because it doesn't go on forever in both directions like an actual line does. And we could call it RS, and you put the little segment symbol above it, or we could call it SR. Because one of the sides doesn't have an arrow, it doesn't matter on the order. This one, it matters. You could not call this ray BA because you have to name the endpoint first. But this one has two endpoints, so you can name it either way, and you put the ray symbol above it. Now the next one goes on forever in both directions, so that we actually call a line. So lines go on indefinitely in both directions. Since they both have arrows, we could call it line CD with the line symbol above it, or we could call it line DC. Because again, it doesn't have an endpoint and an arrow, it has two arrows, so order doesn't matter. And this one we already talked about. This one is an angle. It's made up of two rays. So here's the common endpoint of the rays. So here's one ray, which is ray NO, and here's the other ray, which is ray NM. So give them a common endpoint, and we have an angle. So there's three different names for that angle. You do have to do them in order. So angle MNO, and instead of putting it above, we put it out in front. So the key is the vertex. Remember how we said that common point's the vertex? It always has to be in the middle when you name it. So you couldn't call this angle MON, for instance. So the vertex has to be in the center. But we can also go this way. So that would be angle ONM. Remember how I said the N has to be in the middle? It still is ONM. And we have a third way. Since there's only one angle at that vertex, we can also call it angle N. So if we had, look at this next picture. See how there's three angles at T? There's angle Y, there's angle Z, and then there's a big angle. I could never call this angle T because which one am I talking about? Because there's three angles there, the two little ones and the big one. But because there's only one angle here, I can call it angle N. Okay, so that gives you a little familiar with naming lines, segments, rays, and angles. So this is some more practice. List two other ways to name angle Z. So I kind of like to have it pictured there. So these are arrows here. I'm going to write them in a little bit bigger. So angle Z could be called RTS. So remember, we just have to make sure the vertex is in the center. So angle RTS. Or we could go backwards and say angle STR. And like I said earlier, we cannot call that angle T. And that's because there's 3 different angles at angle T. So we could call it angle Z because there's only one angle there, or RTS, or STR. And remember, to designate that it's an angle, you have to use the angle symbol. So this is pretty fun stuff, huh? Some of you may have seen this before in geometry in high school. Some it may be foreign, but nothing too hard in this chapter. Students usually do really good on the Module 4 test. I was really bummed we aren't going to have time to take it, but I'm sure you're not bummed. Classify each as acute. Remember, cute is little, right? Has the box. Obtuse, obese is a big angle, and straight makes a straight line. So this one is bigger than a right angle, so this one would be obtuse. This one you can see forms a straight line, so it would be straight. This one is a little teeny angle because 90's here. We go straight up and it's smaller than 90, so that one's acute. And this one has the box, which says it's a right angle. So the box tells us it's 90 degrees, making it a right angle. Okay, so I'm going to direct you to a place in your packet or in your glossary, page 2 and page 3. Or excuse me, 2 and 3. I don't know why I said that. In your glossary, page 2 at the top. So complementary are 2 angles that add to 90. So we would say these 2 angles are complementary. Supplementary are 2 angles that add to 180. 139 plus 41 is 180. So as a geometry teacher and as a geometry student, I'm like, how can I remember that? Well, I think C comes before S, 90 comes before 180. So that's how I remember the 2. So C comes before S, 90 comes before 180. So that's how I remember complementary, add to 90 degrees, supplementary, add to 180 degrees. So we need to know that little bit of info down here. So this one says find the complement of a 29-degree angle. A 29-degree angle, and I'm going to put my little cheat sheet right here. C comes before S, 90 comes before 180. So complementary angles add to 90. So to find this, I do 90 minus 29. And won't that tell me what the number is that helps 29 add to 90? So that would be, if you take 90 minus 30, it's 60. So add one more. So that would be 61 degrees. And units count in geometry, so you need to make sure and label it appropriately. So because we know complementary angles add to 90, we just subtract that from 90 to see. And how could you check it? Add those two and make sure they add to 90. Supplementary angles add to 180 using our little cheat sheet here. So if one of the angles is 67, you do 180 minus 67, and that gives us 113 degrees. So that would be the supplement of this angle. If you wanted to check it, add the 2 and make sure they give you 180. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the back page. Oops. So example 6 on page 2. So find the measure of angle Y. So this is just giving you practice reading pictures. So do you see that this whole angle is 141? And this piece right here is 97? So what am I going to do with those to find out what y is? Isn't it what's left over? The whole thing's 141. This piece is 97. Shouldn't I subtract those to find out what the missing piece is? Right? So 141 minus 97. So we're going to have to borrow 14, make it 13, 1, make it 0. So that's going to be 44. So for some reason that doesn't sound right. 41, 42, 43, 44. Yep. So 44 degrees is angle Y. And how could you check that? Just make sure that those two add up to the big angle. So 7 and 4 is 11, carry your 1, 9, 10, 14. Yep, they add up. So angle Y equals 44 degrees. Okay, find the measure of angle X. So same kind of problem. So this whole angle here is 79. This piece right here is 51. So is an angle X going to be what's left? So 79 minus 51. I think we can do that one in our head. 7 minus 5 is 2. 9 minus 1 is 8. So 28 degrees is angle X. My markers are running out. I bought new ones, but I'm bound determined not to use them until I get these all run out. So if you can't see my writing, send me an email. No, teasing. Okay, so everybody good on those two? Basically the same problem, just different numbers, right? Okay, so classify X and Y. Acute, small, obtuse, large, or right. So notice how they're both under 90 degrees. So they're both acute, correct? Because acute is less than 90 degrees. If you look in your glossary. Okay, everybody good? Okay, here comes those vertical angles that we were talking about. Remember how I said this angle will be the same as this angle? And likewise, this angle, and I can't mark them the same, I have to mark them differently because they're not all four equal, will be the same as this angle. So let's start with A. We know what A is. If this is 109, does everybody agree that has to be 109? And remember, it's degrees. Angles are measured in degrees. Okay, so you're probably thinking, how am I going to figure out B? It's really not that hard. So let's take this. So look at that. A and B make a straight line. And don't we know what a straight line measures? It's called a straight angle. Doesn't it measure 180? So if we took a different color, this is 180 degrees because that's what a straight angle is. So we know A is 109. So now it's a problem just like the ones above that we did. If we know all this is 180, can't we just subtract 109 to get the B? So let's write the work there. So we have it 180 minus 109 would be what, 71 degrees? And remember, you can check it by adding those